Hello, my fellow renegades. Welcome back. It is another Renegade Society radio show, and I have a very special guest with me today. I'm super excited to introduce. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind all of you that we do have the Rise of Psycho Rangers and the Villain Pack #2 Machine Empire available at your friendly local game store and online. So if you haven't seen those yet and you are a fan of Heroes of the Grid, you need to check them out, especially the Machine Empire. It's so cool. I'm so excited. We've also got the Duel of Wands Kids on Brooms card game. And this is something we've kind of just announced. And it's a game that's designed by Luke Muench and Doug Lewandowski with art by Heather Vaughn. I love Heather Vaughn's art. It is so cool. It's playable with your Kids on Brooms RPG campaign, or you can play it as a standalone 2-player game. And it is a totally magical experience that you can now pre-order either online or at your friendly local game store. And just a quick reminder, we also still have things going on this month. So our Twitch schedule is More Phenomenal Mondays at 3 p.m. PST and Vampire Wednesdays at 5 p.m. PST. And on Fridays, y'all can always come and hang out with me here on the Renegade Society radio show. All right. And we also have a giveaway going on today for a really awesome game that I am so excited for someone here to win. It is a copy of Warp's Edge, which if you're not aware of this game, well, we're probably going to talk about it in the show, so you'll get to be aware. The code word of that will be given away later in the show, so just keep your ears open for that code word. And once you get it, Desiree will be providing the link in chat where you can enter that code word as well. And speaking of chat, if you have any questions for our guest, which you probably will have many, please feel free to put them in chat and we'll be getting to them near the end of the show. And my guest today is Scott Alden. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Amanda, and thank you for Desiree in the background. I don't know if is she on screen too, or is she just off screen?
She is not, but we can see her. We can
see her. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much.
We were just catching up about Snakes and Lattes. That was one of my. I think I went there like 5 years ago, and I had no idea. Like, this small little bar, and now it's like this huge thing. So
it's massive, and there's just so many games there too. Snakes and Lattes was my like haven before I moved to the city, and was one of the places that I always actually wanted to work at when I was first moving to Toronto. I was like, one day I'm gonna work here and I'm gonna teach people games, and then I did that, so that was pretty cool.
That must be a super fun job, because when we went, we got taught by one of the game what are
game gurus.
Game guru, and he was great, and he taught us like 5 games and a bunch of games I'd never heard of before or seen. So
that's great.
That's where I learned how to play Strike.
Oh, I love Strike. Strike is was a staff favorite at Snakes and Lattes.
That's
back
why
when I was working there.
Teach it really quickly and plays really well.
And it's just one of those games that I feel like at the end of the day, when we were all done and we were just sitting down and chilling together, it's like a really nice game. Yeah. When your brain is like kind of fried from service, you're just like, this is nice. We can just throw dice, nice and easy. And obviously Press Your Luck games. I love Press Your Luck games. So that, and I feel like Can't Stop are 2 games that Snakes and Lattes made me passionately fall in love with.
Yeah.
So,
Can't Stop's awesome.
Yeah. So before we jump into some questions from us, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where we can find both you and your work online?
Sure.
Although I feel like everyone will recognize it immediately.
I mean, if you haven't, there are people out there that have not heard of BoardGameGeek.com, which is a website that was started in the year 2000. So this is our 20-year anniversary this in January.
Wow.
When that happened. We were off to such a great year in January, but anyway, I digress. But yeah, so I'm Scott Alden. I'm the founder and owner of the Board Game Geek website. Like I said, I started it 20 years ago. It actually turned into a company in 2005. So it was just a hobby in the year 2000, right? And this is, some people don't realize it, but before Wikipedia came out. So internet history, there you go. Before pre-Wikipedia, pre-Facebook, pre-YouTube, almost everything.
Yeah.
Except for Google. Google beat us by a year. So
there you go.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, there you go. And I used to work in video games before that. So I went from video games to board games. Yeah.
Well, that seems like a pretty easy move. They're both gaming and
it was fun. Yeah, but board games way easier than making video games.
Yeah.
Making video games is hard. But I don't make board games. I just talk about it, right? We just study them and look at them and keep track of them and all that stuff. So.
That's so awesome. That's so cool that you actually predated Wikipedia, because for me, especially working, even when I was working in Snakes and Lattes, Board Game Geek has been such an amazing tool to help me find out about games, to also help me even find out about like things that I need to learn about a game. Like if I'm interested in a designer, I'm like, oh, I love this game and I love like this really cool design. So I'm like, what else has this designer done? Or even just for rules clarifications. Like I personally use BoardGameGeek all the time to just be like, what are people talking about on the forums? Does anyone have an answer for this, or have something that they prefer to do when they're playing a game? Or just even the designers coming in, which I love, how they get involved in the conversations.
The community that's grown around it is pretty amazing. Like you'll get an rule answer real fast.
Oh yeah.
Designers are right there. Publishers are there. Most of them.
Yeah.
Artists too.
Yeah.
And that was not why it was created, by the way. We had no concept of community in 1999. Right? I mean, this is pre-commercial internet.
Yeah, I mean, like online community, I would say, definitely. So what did inspire you to create BoardGameGeek then? What was the thing that you were like, this is what we want?
There was no information about board games online. I mean, there was a very small, like it was blogs.
Yeah.
So back then, and a lot of German, like there was a German database, and I think it's still around. And I'm drawing a blank on. I think it was like Ludography or Ludo something, but it's all in German. And like most of the big German companies did not do English versions of the games, but so we would just buy German copies directly from Germany, right? I would call up a company called Adam Spielt, which is was an online retailer a retailer back then that had a print magazine or print catalog, and we would order from them. And,
oh my gosh, love it.
Yeah, they spoke English, so that was why and they took credit cards, which was great. And so we would order games from there, and then they would come, and you'd just be like, well, how do we do the translations? Like, what do we?
Yeah.
And where do we store these? And that was like all the problems. And I'm like, you know what? Me being a programmer, I'd previously written a website called 3D Game Geek, which was not community driven, but I want to say like user driven news website for video games. But I couldn't get it to get any traction. Like I ran it for several years and it just never got anywhere. And I was going to shut it down. And I'm like, you know what? I could just rewrite the code and do some things and make it a board game website. Like we'll keep track of all our board games and keep our collections and initially there was no forums, so there was no conversation, there was no user system. Like you couldn't log in. It was just look at these games, and we put the games in daily. Like as we bought games, we just enter the names in and started with our collections. Like the first 500 games on BGG are all the games we had in our collections at that time. And this we is basically the Dallas Metro Gamers, which is a group that's defunct, but it was a group that I met when I moved to Dallas. I used to live in San Francisco, and I moved back to Dallas. I started in Dallas, moved to San Francisco, and went back to Dallas. And I met them through, does Usenet ring a bell to you? Rec Games Board, if I say that?
No, not
Think of a worldwide BBS system.
Okay.
You could just type a message in there, and it would go around the world. And it had a weird naming system. It had rec, short for recreation, games, board. So Rec Games Board was like where all the conversation about board games was happening. So I met some people through there. I was like, I'm back to Dallas. I met some people, got in their game group, the Dallas Metro Gamers. And then as I got in more and more into the gaming, this was like in the late 90s.
Okay.
I'm like, there's got to be something online that we can read about games. There wasn't. So in a weekend, I literally wrote the first version of BoardGameGeek.
Wow.
It wasn't called BoardGameGeek. I think it was 3dgamegeek.com/BoardGameGeek because I had that domain, right? Like I'm like, wow, am I going to register another domain name? Do I want to spend that $10 or whatever?
Yeah.
Who knew back then, like domain names? So that's the story of the beginnings of it.
Wow.
And it sort of has evolved, and it wasn't a company at the beginning. It was just for fun, keeping track of games.
Yeah. And was it like can you still go back and see the first 500 games? Can I sort those?
If you just iterate the numbers. So if you go to boardgamegeek.com/boardgame/1, you'll get Democker, which was the first game we entered.
Oh, okay, because they're all numerically entered.
Right. That's the ones I remember off my head is 1 is Democker, 13 is Settlers, 42 is Tigris and Euphrates, and that's all I can remember.
That's so cool.
Just those off
awesome.
my head. Yeah.
That's a cool little bit of history. I like that. So you were just using it basically to categorize the games and to just sort them so you could keep track of.
Yeah, we were keeping track of the authors, designers. We weren't keeping track of artists and I think we were doing publishers at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So it was very lightly data.
Very bare bones, but just to organize it. Yeah.
And if you go on Wayback Machine, you can see the old site a little.
Oh,
it kind of works a little bit.
Cool.
It's come a long way.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, just even based on what you said, like obviously it's become more of a community of people that have all kind of put into it and kind of, I think, shaped
And that
some of the
was
things
what
they've
changed
wanted.
it. Yeah, as soon as I had written that system where people could log in and write reviews or upload pictures, that was like, took off. Yeah.
And I mean,
I think it was like 2003 when that happened. If I'm not trying to remember. But
yeah, I don't know. I know I've been using it for years and still point people to it all the time when people are like, "Oh, I don't know about this." Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, it's just such a great resource, and it really is the place to go. If you're watching this now and you're thinking, "Oh, well, like I'm new to games and I don't even know where to start." Like BoardGameGeek is a really great place to start because it really does. It is a great community that will point you in directions. You can look up one thing and instantly find millions of other things. It really is. I mean, it really is what Wikipedia is for board games.
Kind of,
how I feel, but more of a community where we all get to interact.
And like you can enter in your own collection.
Yeah.
You can enter in ratings. You can rate your collection. You can write about stuff. You can ask questions, all that stuff. Yeah. Upload
things
pictures.
Things you want to keep track of. Yeah. And I mean, I also have the stats app as well. So the other cool thing is
the BG stats app.
Yeah. So it is a really good one to connect with your BGG, and you can really keep track of basically everything. Also, I love when you can, with another friend, just even compare your library.
Yeah.
I do that a lot with friends where like, they'll like share all their stuff with me and I'll be like, oh yeah, if you want to bring this and then I'll bring this. Really good for coordinating stuff. Or if you want to buy something for someone and you're like, I don't know.
That's a feature I want to create actually.
Yeah.
We call it the board game dance card.
Oh,
but I haven't, it's not done yet. But so like if you're going to a small convention, I mean, I'll pitch you the idea. Do you think it'll be a good idea? If you're going to a small convention and you want to bring the games, like you have to coordinate with people, right? Well, there should be an app for that. Like I'm going to bring this, and this, and this, and you bring that and that. And then people can make requests and people can fill requests. But
I love that because
back burner apps.
How many times have I been to a convention and then, you all pull out the same game and you're like, well, this was a waste.
Well, we didn't need 5 copies of.
Especially if you're flying somewhere because all that space in your suitcase. My favorite thing at the end of a convention is just playing game Tetris. That's one of my favorite convention games to play. When you leave with your big load of games and you're like, well, what?
Have you gone to Essen yet? Have you been to the
I have not been to Essen yet. I'm scared to go to Essen for that reason. Yeah,
that's the fun one because you have to fly internationally, right? And you have to 2 suitcases. Like you got to figure it out.
Although granted, the nice thing I will say is I've been prepared since a lot of my flights are still international because I'm constantly flying from Canada to the States. So I do have my tiny suitcase and everyone always comes with all their big, many bags. I'm like, what are you doing with this? You only have one suitcase. And I'm like, look, I got to make this work. I can fit a lot in one.
In the old days, we went to Essen with giant, as big as you could fit on the airplane suitcases. And then now we just ship everything back. So it's not
that's
as tiny as it can be because if you've been in Europe and you're going around on trains, you don't want a giant suitcase.
So true. So true.
Travel tip.
And I mean, you also like at conventions when we're not in a pandemic, you play lots of games. But what are are there any that have been your recent favorites with sort of even just where we're at right now? What have you been playing lately?
Oh my gosh. Lately, I've only been I'm playing weekly with my game group where we play on Tabletop Simulator and we do a Discord. But some Castles of Tuscany I really like.
Oh, all right.
That's a really newish one from Aliyah Games and Stefan Feld. And it's a real nice, quick game. Like I would highly recommend that if anybody's looking for something for Christmas.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
There you go. Put that on your list.
Put that on your list. It's super accessible. I think under $30, maybe.
How many people does it play?
4. 2 to 4.
2 to 4. Okay. Yep. Have you played it with 2 as well as like 4? And does it play?
I've only played with 3 and 4.
Oh,
but I've heard it plays well with 2. Okay. I think Rado did a 2-player and he really liked it. So.
All right. Well, that's good. That's what I like to hear.
That would be my recommendation.
Great. That's always a tricky thing, I think, in games is getting that good balance between number of players. Whenever a game's, when you pick up those games and it's like, this plays 1 to 8 and you're like,
does it really?
What are all these experiences like? Yeah.
But also I've been playing a lot of solo stuff. Like I've been really into it. I've never played a solo game. I never laid a board game on my table until this year, like to play by myself.
To play by yourself. Wow.
Nope. And I've been doing that now for almost, I guess, since March.
Yeah.
March 13th. I remember the day. It's good. It was a Friday the 13th. Yeah, and I do a stream on that. I do live stream on Saturdays and just hang out and play it and try to struggle my way through really complex games.
What
Probably
are some
more
of
complex than I
your
can.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of solos out there too, and there's like all sorts of levels of complexity, which I think is awesome.
Right. And
Are there any that are your favorite right now for solo games?
Well, Warp's Edge is one of my favorites that I think we're going to give away a copy, right?
We're going to be giving away a copy of that. We're going to
the
talk
end of
about
the
that.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was definitely one of the standouts from this year. Alterquest, which is a Kickstarter, which is not really, it wasn't, I think it wasn't made for solo, but it plays perfectly well solo.
Oh, okay. Is it a cooperative or?
It's a cooperative dungeon crawl game that's made with a cool deck of cards. It's a card deck system. I think they call it modular card system.
Oh,
designers.
okay.
It's like their third one. But this one's a fantasy one, so that's been fun. I've been trying to get through Ether Fields. I've got it on my desk right now, which is it's crazy. That's a tough one to manage by myself. There's a lot of stuff there. What else? I really like oh gosh, Cristallo. Have you heard of that one? Cristallo?
I haven't heard of that one, no.
Love it. It's a deck of cards. It's a solo game, really well done. Yeah. Nice.
So is it like pretty compact then too?
It's one deck of cards. Yeah, I think I don't have it on my desk. I cleaned up a little bit, but
one deck of cards.
It's one deck of cards and a sack of crystal gems.
I love that. What Cristallo?
Yeah, Cristallo with 2 L's. Crystal L-O.
All right. What is it about? What's the theme for that?
So you're trying to defeat the Black Dragon.
Oh,
and you basically just lay down 2 cards and you start from there, and you're matching up gems on the corners of the cards. Yeah. And as you match them, you like unlock the creatures of the dungeon. Like the Black Dragon has captured all these magical creatures.
Yeah, and so you're like trying to free them?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you free all of them, you go confront the Black Dragon. So if you don't free them all, you don't even get to the Black Dragon. You have to do that before your deck runs out.
Oh, okay.
And then when you go into the Black Dragon, you've got your deck, what you have left over, plus a set aside deck. And you have to unlock all of the. You have to hit the dragon with one of every color. Really neat little game. Really, really, really impressive.
That sounds really cool. That actually reminds me. So is it about like card placement as well?
It is. And you can overlay cards, and they can stack on top of each other, and it's really and when you're done, you have this really nice looking
like pretty thing
array. And the gems are really cool. They're like crystal. I think they call them scatter gems.
Okay. I'm definitely going to need to check that out.
Yeah,
I love solo games, and I love a compact solo game because anytime when we get back to traveling, that's one of the things I love to have with me. And then because a lot of the times I'll be traveling solo, so I'll just be like by myself, grabbing some lunch, and I'm like, I'd like to play a game right now. Yeah. And then it's also a really good way to actually make friends if you're ever traveling.
Because if you're playing a solo game, they're like, what's that?
Yeah, people are usually like, what are you doing over there? And you're like, I'm playing this game. It's kind of like this. And then I always have like a little something that I could play with 2 or more on me in case people are like, I'd play a game. And I'm like,
game pusher. You got the first one's free. Want to try this
like
game
this one? I'll show you what I'm doing now. This one, you play with me. And then people are like, oh, okay. Now I'm the friend. And I'm like, now we're friends. There you go. That's how it works.
And honestly, that's what the beauty is about board gaming industry and board game hobby. Yeah, it's so easy to make friends with.
Yeah. And it sounds like it also just reminds me of solitaire, and I have a very strong love for solitaire and games where you're like placing things and trying to make this sort of pretty thing, but it's also got a fantasy theme. So that sounds great to me.
Yeah, and the artwork is awesome, and when you have all the gems laid out, it's super colorful. It's great. It's a good one.
Yeah. That's an enticer. That's going to bring the people in when I'm traveling. That's good. Mm-hmm. I like that. And then as well, you were talking about Warp's Edge. So let's go back and talk about that a little bit. So when it comes to Warp's Edge, which we are giving away today, so everybody stay tuned for that. But tell us a little bit about what you like about it. I haven't played Warp's Edge yet. So
okay. So it's a sci-fi theme. You're a single starfighter. But do you remember the movie The Last Starfighter? Did you ever see that?
Yes. Yeah.
You're a little young. Yeah. Okay. So it's Last Starfighter, the board game.
Oh, all right.
There you go. So you're the one starfighter. You got to destroy the mothership, and you have to fight off waves of fighters. Like, so the mothership is launching fighters at you.
Yeah.
And it's a bag building game. So you're constantly adding things to your bag, and you're drawing tokens out of the bag. And the core of the game is like figuring out how to best use your tokens, in the most efficient manner, because you really need to be efficient because you have to destroy all of the ship. Well, it depends on the scenario, but basically in the one I have played, You have to destroy all of the spaceship or the smaller ships before you get to the mothership, and then you attack the mothership, and you try to survive it or defeat it.
And is it there's ways that you can add things into your bag that are
right?
good,
And so
is there ways that maybe some tricky things will get in your bag?
Yeah, and every starship, every fighter ship has 5 unique powers.
Okay.
Which correspond to POWER. Right? So you're putting those in your bag, and those all do really fun stuff.
Cool.
Plus, you have just the regular attacks, and you have evading, and you have energy, which lets you buy more ships to add to your bag. And as you blow stuff up, you'll get stuff. As you blow up the smaller ships, you will get a reward.
Oh, I like when I blow up stuff and I get things. That makes me happy.
Yeah. You get your gravity field thing picks up the scraps of the blown up ships, or if you evade them too. Like if you evade them, you get one bonus, and if you blow them up, you get a different one. So there's this kind of, well, I can evade that, but I can't shoot that. When it's really, it's been a pleasure to play it because it provides you all these problems to solve solo.
Yeah.
And I like sci-fi themed stuff, so.
Yeah, I also like sci-fi themed stuff, so I like that. And I know that Banana Chan did the intro book for that, where you can.
I haven't had a chance to read that, but it's like a
that's something I'm excited
type
for.
Adventure thing,
yeah, and then that can affect your setup, and it's also Scott Alms, so like I have multiple Scott Alms games at home, and I don't think I've ever played anything by Scott that I haven't liked, so. Still waiting for that to happen, so I'm sure I'll like it.
Good thing for him, yeah.
yeah.
But no, it's
really good.
It's a perfect package in a small box and not too expensive. Great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you were going back to BGG, when you moved from it being, in the early 2000s, this sort of side project that was for fun, what was the point? What was it like when it became like a full-time gig? And sort of, can you talk a little bit more about like what that transition was like and how it came about? Because that's huge to be like, oh, this is fun. And then be like, oh, this is my life now.
Right. I guess I'll back up and go when I was in the video. So when I moved back to Dallas in the 90s, like remember I said I was out in California. I was working on a 3D graphics chip, by the way, called 3D Effects. I don't know if you remember that, but it doesn't matter. But I got into video games so heavily, and I was like, oh man, I really want to be in video games. And like that was my dream job, and I was in it. And then I moved back to Dallas as a developer of video games, and then but I was always missing something. I was like, man, I really like board games too. I'll try to find that board game group, right? So I found that group through Rec Games Board, as I mentioned, and I was in the dream space. Like I was like playing board games, I was making video games, and then eventually like video games sort of faded away. Like it was just time, right? It was. I think I worked almost 10 years in the video. No, wait, what? Memory. Almost 10 years in the video game industry, and I worked at a company called 3D Realms. I don't know. And I worked on Duke Nukem. Remember that game?
Oh yeah. All right.
Duke Nukem Forever, I should say. Not the one that people remember, but the next one. But we never finished it, and that's super demotivating, right? Mm-hmm. Working on a project year after year, never finishing it. So each year that went by, I was like, man, this Board Game Geek thing is getting really interesting. Eventually, it sort of like got very interesting in 2005, and I was like, I think I'm just going to quit. And this was a risk too, because we weren't making very much money. Yeah. We had one advertiser, I think, or two advertisers. And we did a sort of like a Patreon style thing where people could support the website and pay. Yeah. And I was like, well, I asked my wife, and she was like, yeah, sure, I think we can do it. And we did it, and I did it. So nice. That was like, it was super exciting. I woke up and I literally quit my job on December 20th, I think, from 3D Realms. Mm-hmm. And I said, I give my 2 weeks notice, and George Broussard, the owner of the company, is like, yeah, you can just go now if you want. we don't need you for 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you, George. Because I was trying to be nice, right? Like normally you want to give 2 weeks notice. Of course. Good thing to do, people, if you ever get in that position. Yeah. Because you never know. But he's like, yeah, you can just leave. Just clean out the desk, whatever, and go. He goes, we could kind of tell. Because I was just always we were playing board games in the office, we were doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I love that. So it was a nice, amicable. That's good. Leaving the company. So then I woke up the next day and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I guess I should do something, right? Like program something. And so it was just a flurry of like creativity that happened at that time with no day job holding me back, right? I could work on it all day. Yeah. Yeah. It's great when you find the thing that you're passionate about and then you're just like, oh, I can just go.
And like when you just set yourself free, the things you can accomplish.
A lot of people don't realize that. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
maybe not so much these days, but back then when you were in a job, you kept that job. Like I had a hard time leaving telecom to go to San Francisco. Right. And then, but it was easier the next time to come from San Francisco back to Dallas. And of course, being young is easy, and not having kids or being married, that also contributed to it.
Help. Yeah.
It's a little easier to make decisions when it's just you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was it. Like I talked about it with my wife, and she was cool with it, and we were like, yeah, okay, let's just do it. And that was just it. So
that's awesome.
And then each year that went by was like, it's like a ball rolling down the hill.
Yeah, more and more things. Was there anything that you felt really that you added that kind of like just revolutionized everything with the site?
Gold.
Geek Gold.
Remember Geek Gold? Or well, it used to be a little bit more valuable back in the day. Like we offered users Geek Gold to upload photos, sort of like a on-site currency.
Yeah.
And that blew the doors off. Everybody's like, oh, I gotta get the Geek Gold. And
love it.
Like use the Geek Gold to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So it was that was an interesting innovation. Now I think I don't remember there being other websites with virtual currencies, but
yeah, I mean, it's a nice reward and incentive for people to be like, oh, I'm going to contribute and I get like a little reward. It's basically, it's basically like what you would use in a game mechanic to get people to do tasks. Yeah, victory points.
Get some victory points.
That is what it is.
That might be the best innovation we ever came up with.
Yeah. And I love, like I said, how integrated that is into board gaming already, just based on the concept.
It's a game part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really always surprised me how popular it is the geek list, like making lists of things. But the internet runs on lists now.
Yeah, we love lists.
Yeah, exactly. Like too much. So
that was a little too much.
Yeah.
A little too much, I think, when people are like, I'm going to put this list above my own opinions. That's I feel like when we enter the danger zone.
We've jumped the shark of the lists. Yes.
Yes.
But it's still fun to see what people come up with, because there's lists over everything now.
Yeah.
So you want a list of, and I've been subscribed, and the subscription system is done by one of our programmers, Daniel Karp. That revolutionized the site too, because you could subscribe to a game and get all the information about that game as it happened. So subscriptions. So sort of like following.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Like following the game.
Yep. And that really helped. But I've been subscribed to this solo player list where people who have been posting about their solo play, which is incredibly exciting this year, because, what am I going to play next? Go look at that list and you'll have 500 people saying what to play next.
Yeah, I love that. And and that is the great thing about lists, and where I feel like they're super useful is when you're like, I've never really gotten into this thing, or I'm looking for something very specific. Lists can be really good for that when you're like, I just don't know where to go. And then people are like, well, I have played things and have experience. Please share my experience. And I'm like, that's nice. Community is so good. Well, we are hitting about the halfway point. So I'm going to quickly give everybody that code word before we move on.
The code word.
The code word today for the Warp's Edge giveaway is geek.
Geek. I like that word.
Yes.
Geek was not as cool back then in the 90s.
I would believe that. Yeah. I mean, it was a different time.
When I made the Board Game Geek name, people thought it was derogatory.
Really?
Well, a geek is like a circus freak, right? I don't know if you
guess
the original definition of a geek was a circus freak kind of person.
Oh, well, now we've reclaimed that.
Or
now,
a carnival.
Geeks are
carnival thing. I don't remember.
Are usually associated with fandoms and just being passionate people who love things. Yeah. Which is nice.
So, I mean, we stuck with it, even though people didn't like to be called geeks, because it's like being called a nerd. I think back then it was more like you're a nerd or a dork.
Yeah.
That kind of
verbiage.
I've always treated it with love.
Yeah, me too. I personally, I mean, I've been probably a nerd / geek / dork since I was a very small, weird child. And so I know no other way how to be. So when people are like, it must be nice for this to be a thing now that's cool. I'm like, yeah, I've really known no other options. So just.
Yeah, well, that's what we were back then. And then, well, there's a term for it now, and it's not as derogatory as it used to be. So
yeah, because there's a great fun-loving army of us that are like, yay, look at us, we're having fun.
No, geeks rule the
Celebrating
world.
Yeah, geeks do rule the world. And just a quick reminder for everyone as well, if you have any questions, we are going to be getting to that in a bit. So do plug those into the chat and we'll be getting to you shortly. I like how when I do this, it looks like I have little cat paws. I don't know what's happening. Yeah.
Typey type.
Typey type. Yes, that should be something. Someone needs to make a GIF of that. But yes, so we're talking about playing solo games. We're talking about online experiences and all of these lists. Something that we're kind of missing this year, because normally for board games, we have a lot of conventions that will be happening and we'll all go to just a few. It's like so weird actually to be home because I'm used to traveling through a lot of the year. Yeah. And so it's been nice to be home because I'm like, oh yeah, this is what it's like to like be in a place and not go somewhere for a bit, which is actually very relaxing. But we go to these conventions to find out, what's upcoming, what are the cool things that we need to play, what are the things that are the most talked about that have the buzz. This is where publishers go to be like, hey, what do you think of this?
My stuff.
Yeah, let me show this off and you tell me what you think. And so many of us covering stuff, right, when we go to conventions. So how has it been this year with virtual conventions? Have you been to some virtual conventions and what have been your favorites?
Yeah, I've been to a lot.
Have you been to all the virtual conventions?
I don't think I've been to all of them, but I've been to a few. Some of the big ones. But BGG also runs its own convention. So we did that in March. That was our first, May. No, June. I keep pushing it back. Well, normally our Board Game Geek convention in the spring is in May. It's on Memorial Day weekend. And this time it was like, okay, well, that's not happening. So it's so funny because we thought it was going to happen back then, but no. And we joined up with the Dice Tower and we did a 5-day virtual convention.
Cool.
Like we hosted
How was that for you?
It was great. Well, I didn't have to do anything except show up. And you run a convention, you got to like, I mean, the planning and the execution is like half a year to get to that point.
Yes.
And then you got to go do all the physical move. Like we have a 5,000 game library. We would move to the hotel, right? That didn't have to do that. But we did an online thing where we did it through Discord mostly. Okay. And let people arrange their own games on Tabletop Events. Tabletop.events is a website, which is now under Board Game Geeks, the company. I guess we bought it.
Nice. Cool.
They went from profitable company to zero in a month, right? Like because everything got canceled, so they were going to shut it down. Yeah. So we bought it, and now it's run by us. But we use Tabletop Events, Discord, and Twitch, where we would stream stuff as sort of an entertainment thing. We put live streamers on BoardGameGeek.com/live, so it had a 24/7 show, I guess you would call it, to watch people do gaming stuff. Cool. So that was our take. That was my stuff from May. And we did it again in November for BGG Con, which is our fall show, which normally has about 3,500, almost 4,000 people to it. The spring one is a little smaller. It's like 2,500. So it was like different. But we went to Gen Con, we went to Origins, or we didn't go to Origins, sorry. We went to Gen Con, we went to Comic-Con virtual, we went to Gen Con virtual, we went to Spiel virtual, and we did our thing. We basically broadcast live for 10 hours a day, doing game demos all day.
Wow.
So that was our convention experiences.
Yeah. That's
not
cool.
So much fun, but work. But at BGG cons, I got to play a little bit. I got to play with friends that we went on Discord and did a stream. We played on Tabletop Simulator. We played on Tabletopia.
Yeah.
Not the same because you're not in the same room.
Yeah.
Although with a camera, it was almost pretty much like in the same room, but obviously there's differences.
Yeah.
Plus you're not in another city and you're not in a hotel and you're not eating food from another city. That part is hard. You can't replace that.
No, you can't. And you can't
it's a little,
replace the feeling of like, we all just experienced a day on the floor and now we're going to go do this thing.
There's nothing
That's
like
very
that.
hard.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's a way to reproduce that virtually. Maybe someone will figure something out.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely still gives you a bit of the rush I feel like that you have when you run into someone and you're like, oh my gosh, let's sit down and play this game. I haven't seen you, and you still get to like chat. And like at RenCon, we had this really amazing game of a Tea Dragon Society that if anyone listens to our show regularly, they're probably like, oh my gosh, Amanda, stop talking about this one experience. But it was so good.
Well, it made an impression on you.
It did. And it was one of those things that I guess because it just kind of caught me off guard. Like I never thought I would have that sort of similar experience not being at a convention. And so it felt so good to like connect with like some of the fellow renegades and be like, how are you all doing? And we got to play this game. And it was at the end of the day. So it was like, because as well, like I'm in the Eastern Standard Time over here, it's very late for me. So it did have that feeling of, a little bit like when it's late at night and you're like, oh, should I go to bed or do I play one more game?
3 a.m. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that was like, we got a little bit of that at BGG Con. I mean, I think virtual cons are good. I like them.
Yeah.
I hope some of them continue, because honestly, like there's a whole group of people out there who've never been to a physical con. A lot of people from Europe never have come over. Our BGG Con was pretty heavily Europe time zone friendly. That's awesome. And so.
Yeah. And I think that is so true. And I think, I hope that regular conventions continue and that we also get to explore virtual, because it is really nice when you're kind of like, hey, maybe for this convention or for a convention where we're really all over the place, there's no way we're all going to get in the same spot. This is a way where we can still connect, and I can still connect with people, halfway around the world, that the odds of me being able to get there are going to be more challenging than if I'm just going, to a convention in North America, being based in North America. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And how about Essen then? How about Spiel? Because that is one of the biggest board game conventions.
That's a hard one, because that's a hard one to reproduce, because it's such a it's a consumer convention.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's super heavy. You buy it. Different, but people would just go there to buy games, not so much play. Like playing is hard to do at Essen. You can do it. It is possible, but it's mostly a buying convention. And you'll have 2,000 games at Essen, to choose from, which is mind blowing. That's hard to reproduce virtually. Now they did a good job. I think their portal was cool. I liked it. I couldn't buy anything though as an American. There was no way to buy anything.
That's challenging.
Zero. I didn't buy no. I bought one game from Czech Games.
Oh, okay.
And then I just got that last week.
Yeah.
Came in the mail.
Yeah, and Spiel was when? That was
in October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time to wait.
Yeah, it's a while.
But I mean, as well, the post right now, obviously, if let's say we had another virtual Spiel or Essen experience, and we were to do that, I mean, ideally the post would also be at its normal proficiency, because right now I think everyone's post is all strange and mysterious. Yeah. You send something.
Well, there's
and you're
a problem.
One day you'll get it.
Yeah, container ships are a problem. Yeah, we're waiting on something from Germany right now that's not going on as planned, let's say.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, just even at the borders, I've had a lot of stuff that I've had shipped that is just at that border, and I'm just
stuck in customs. Yeah.
Yeah, just waiting for them to get to it, because I know they're really busy. So that's just the reality. Was there anything that you really enjoyed about Virtual Essen, or that you felt was just exceptional?
We got to see a ton of games. I mean, so when we did our broadcast, we didn't really have a whole lot of time to spend at those conventions, so I don't have opinion on that. I heard good things.
Yeah.
I heard though it's always challenging, right? How do you meet up with people virtually? Where do you game? Especially since Essen is such a buyer convention. But there's game playing there. It's not like it's not existent. But all the publishers had demos and things. I thought that was really cool how everybody came together at Spiel. It was a big show.
Wow.
And we were busy. We did 10-hour days for 5 days. And I think we did 100 games, 90. Now normally we can do 30 games a day in physical. Yeah. So over 5 days we did 90. So you can see the changes. But Lincoln and Nikki, who are the game night people, Lincoln works for me, BoardGameGeek. But Nikki, his wife, they basically ran the videos they switched out on table. They basically were virtual hand. What we did with this crazy setup, they were the virtual hand streaming out of LA in the game night studio. a Zoom call in from the publisher and a Zoom call in from a host.
Okay, cool.
So a little bit like what we're doing here. We're all in different
Yeah.
places, but then there would also be a physical game being played in another studio where the publisher would say, "Hey, move that piece here." And Lincoln,
That's
Nikki,
so
or
cool.
move it, and they were just like going for 10 hours straight. So I thought we innovated there.
Yeah.
It's a hard content to sell though, like not sell, but like to make money off, but just get people interested in it. Unless you're like really hardcore about board gaming to watch 10 hours a day of game demos where it's one or two games every half an hour. It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
Not like the most exciting thing in the world.
Yeah.
Unless games are exciting to you.
I mean, games are very exciting to me. So for me, it's pretty exciting.
You'd be there. You're there. I'm there. Front row.
I'm there. Yeah. But for the, I think the average consumer and player who maybe isn't as hardcore, or it might be a lot to be extended for that long. And the other thing too is I think it's hard because with board gaming, when we talk about it, it's such an experience, right? That we've kind of talked about, like even when we're talking about like that convention experience,
you
everything
can see
for
the game.
gamers, and everything about for tabletop gamers, whether you play RPGs or board games, is about the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different than most other mediums where the mediums are kind of building the experience for you and then you're just like there. Yeah. This is like you are the experience as much as the game is.
You have to make it. And that a lot of people aren't cut out for that.
Yeah. And I
have to push myself to do it. Like I normally will go with the flow on a convention, like whatever happens. But like when there was a lot of hours I spent during some of these, our own BGG where I'm just like, well, should I do something or should I just wait till later? You know, like it was that weird. Like, do I need to do the dishes or, you know what I mean? Like that is in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlike and it's regular convention.
Yeah. And it's the thing I think of, unless you're at a table experiencing something, sometimes it can also be hard to like convey the magic through a screen as opposed to like with a person in a room.
Yep.
But that sounds it sounds pretty cool. The fact that they were able to still show off a lot of stuff, I think is
we had a really busy year.
Yeah. That's
I didn't think we would be busy, but we made it. So
you made it. You're here. And that's kind of something that I think I was going to be talking about next, which is when it comes to, you know, not having in-person conventions this year to show off the games. Your site actually, I feel like, can kind of supplement some of that because it is a great resource for people who are looking for games, looking to get into games. And weirdly enough, although there were so many people I talked to at the beginning of the year that were like, this might kill gaming, this whole scenario that we're going through, I feel like has almost done a little bit of the opposite because there have been so many families at home that are like, I need help. I need entertainment. What can I turn to? And I want to connect with my family as opposed to us all going off and just being on devices this entire time. And it's like in walks the board games.
And here's board games.
Board games are so great.
So you have people on for years and years and you never noticed it.
And I mean thousands of years. Like this is an ancient culture that we've all been a part of, gaming. And and now people are like, hey, maybe I want to do that. And that's so cool that all these people have come in. So have you seen any increase in traffic on the site, or are there any like tools that you've added that you feel like have been amazing for just helping people
we did a virtual gaming guide, which is super popular. Yeah. So and that's still, I think, on the front page. We just left it up there for like the whole year.
Nice.
Normally stuff cycles off the front page. But we got a huge traffic spike in March and April, like more than double. We're like, wow. Yes. Like double the signups, right? Like
that's great.
Now that's faded off, but now we're into Christmas where it's going back up. So we're at our all-time high of traffic. So
wow, congratulations.
It's good.
Yeah. I mean, well, because it's something.
It's something. It's hard to know what it means, right? I mean, now I hope more games are getting purchased. I suspect they are.
Yeah.
I know a lot more things are getting purchased. Plus, like, it's a good time to spend, right? I mean, I think people were looking for jigsaw puzzles at first. Now all the jigsaw puzzles are sold out. What's next? Board games. Okay, board games.
Solo games. Come and play the solo games. Get some cooperatives. You can play with people or by yourself. That's my favorite.
I think it's gotten some traction in the what you would call mainstream, not normally interested in board gaming. More of a video game family or a video game household.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I mean, let's be honest, kids not going to schools, or most schools are closed, that's a long day with the kids in the house, right? I mean, I don't have kids, but I can just assume. I'm pretty sure I'm right there. It's going to change your lifestyle. So games are a great way to pass some time. And I think it just kind of came around, and that's what it is. But I mean, I hope it continues. I hope it makes board gamers out of people that normally weren't.
I hope so too. I hope it opens up people to a new experience that makes them go like, oh, wow, this is what board gaming is. And I never would have thought to pick up a board game. Because I mean, and I think the other thing too is there's a lot of people that maybe haven't been in the hobby or like just getting into it. There's a lot of people that have preconceived notions about what board gaming is.
Sure.
Yeah. And like, I've talked to a lot of people that are like, oh, it's like Monopoly, or I don't know. Anytime I've crossed the border and I have to explain to people I'm going to a board game convention, there've been quite a few times when people, when I'm crossing the border, are like, what? And then they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, we go and we learn new games, and you know, this is the experience. And like, what? You need to learn how to play Monopoly? And I'm like,
or sorry,
well, there's new games. Yeah, sorry.
One time I went to Toronto. We went to Target to buy some stuff. We had a game.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, we're going to. People asked me like, what are you going to do all this stuff? Oh, we're doing a board game weekend. And they're like, oh, like sorry. I was like,
sorry,
my Canadian story. But yeah, so I think it's easily overlooked because there's not much mainstream about it. Like.
Yeah, well, because people think there's like 4 board games and that's all you have, some people. And you have to explain to them, actually, there's a lot of new stuff.
Although Queen's Gambit has done a huge thing for board gaming.
For chess,
and chess, like chess and board games for sure. So,
which love that. I'm a big fan of chess myself. I've been playing chess ever since I was like 6. So I love chess. And I was like, that's so good that everyone's playing chess again. It's a great game.
I played it as a kid myself.
Yeah, it is an exciting game. Well, that's very good. I'm very glad that it's helping to motivate traffic on the site, and that hopefully that traffic is also helping people get their hands on games that are good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be good to have people say that board gaming is my favorite thing to do without, like number one thing to do in my spare time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it is quite there yet.
I mean, I think you could get there for a lot of people, because I don't know. I think gaming is one of the best experiences you can have with people at a table, or even sometimes people online. I do still enjoy a nice online gaming experience. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. And I'm like, there are now people I could game with that I could never game with all year round because we're just traveling so much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, finally, I could just be like, hey, are you online? Do you want to play like some Wingspan or something? Yeah, let's just play something. But yeah, the other thing I was going to kind of ask about, so the virtual guide that you have, how does that work? Is it like, does it help you pick a game for like what you're in the mood for?
No, it kind of shows you like, oh, you should use like a chat program, or, like go to these systems like Tabletopia or Tabletop Simulator.
Oh, so it helps to direct you if you're like,
it's just like
online gaming and you're like, help me.
Yeah.
That's great, because I definitely played with Tabletopia for the first time a while ago, and that was an experience. I was like, I do not know what I'm doing. Thank goodness I have friends who can help me know where to click, because I don't know. Because there's definitely a learning curve with some of that stuff, especially the more complex you get.
It does give you a few games of like party games or like a deduction game, or there's like, I think looks like 3 or 4 games per category.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good.
So it's
something to get you started.
Website. Yeah, and there's a bunch of websites where you can play games.
That's great.
I just had to jog my memory since I hadn't looked at it since March.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I love that it helps people to find those tools and kind of help them with that, because even Discord for people, and like Discord is so good if you want to play.
If you can overcome that small technical leap to get on Discord, it'll change your life. I'm in like 50 Discords now. I used to be in like 1.
Yeah. That's so many Discords. Yeah, that's
a lot of Discords.
It's so funny because I just created a Discord for a friend group, and I was like, oh, let's like make some channels. Oh, let's like make some things. And they were like, what are you doing over here? And I'm like, I'm just Discording.
My universe.
Yeah, and I personally did not know how to Discord last year. Like last year, I did not know what I was doing. Yep. And now I built a Discord. And they were like, this is too much. There's too many notifications. I'm scared. And I was like, look, I'm part of so many Discords. You just need to check them when you have time. When you want, mute things.
You can mute them.
And come back to it when you're ready. Yeah. And the nice thing is that you're building communities. So usually you build communities in the sense of it's just whoever is on can feel.
And that one-click voice channel is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That makes it so much easier. Like, why are we typing? Let's just talk.
Yeah, let's just go talk in this room. That was the thing that personally a lot of people were wowed by, because we had a Zoom thing going on, and because we didn't have premium Zoom, it was like we only had so much time.
40 minutes.
Yeah, and
restart.
And it was a birthday Zoom for a friend, and so that's why I made the channel, because I was like, well, if we go on Discord, we can all just yeah. And then they were like, oh, we can put on our cameras and we can all just be here. And I was like, yeah, you could be here. You could be here all day, all night if you want to. I'm not going to be here with you all day, all night, but I'll check in and be like, hey,
I'll check in every once in a while. Make sure
you're live.
Shenanigans are happening.
Yeah, no shenanigans. Not in this Discord server. That's so great. And when we talk about BGG as well, and just sort of everything that it's done and all of the tools that it gives people, and especially now, there's so much going on. I know right now you guys have your end of the year support drive going on. Right. And BGG has personally given so much back to me. I definitely would like to give back as well. So can you tell us a little bit about sort of how that works, and how other gamers who are looking to give to BGG can help the site and help it live long into the future? Another 20, 100,000 years.
I mean, I always, as I age, I always think, what am I going to do if what I don't want to do this anymore? I don't know. That's a different story. But yeah, so the support drive, we did it in 2004. That was the first one. And that's what got me into my being full-time. So it's been an annual tradition. In December, we put up a support pledge, and we want to emphasize this is not a donation. This is support. Like you're paying for the websites to run and do things, right? It's not a donation. We don't need it. Like it's useful. We make use of it for sure. But to clarify that, it's not a charity. We don't use the word donation. It's a support payment. And it's not obligatory, right? You can, if you use the website and derive joy or fun from it, like you said, Amanda, if you can spend some money, and it's, it's like a subscription without forcing it, right? The site's always been free. I think it will always be free. I said that 20 years ago. And though that's just what it is, right? Support funds at the end of the year, and you get your badges, like you get like your 2020 badge, and then what other fun stuff? You get Geek Gold.
Oh, that's sweet.
Geek Gold gives you your avatar. You can buy micro badges. I don't know if the micro badge thing is kind of a craziness. That was a weird.
Oh yeah, I've seen the micro badges. Yeah, people
thousands of them now. Yeah,
this is like the thing though with gamers. You give us swag, and we do love. Oh yeah, we love the buttons. We love all the things. I love all my ribbons. Like this is just how we are. I feel like as gamers, it's bits. We want all the bits. Really, give us all that.
Wants the bits, the shiny bits.
The shiny bits.
Yeah, so we appreciate it, and obviously, like if you just use the site and contribute to it, that's cool too. It's not a big deal. We don't want to put any pressure on anybody. It's totally at your discretion.
Yeah, no, I just saw it and I thought it was super cool, because as someone who's personally used the site for so long, I always look at, though, one of my favorite things is when people do any sort of thing where they're like, you can give to us or whatever, it's going to go into the site, making it better, all of these things. I always just think to myself, how much have I used this site in this year? And like, how much is that given to me? And then I'm just like, well, this is definitely worth me putting in if I can then. I mean, I think that's always, you're welcome.
Now, if everybody was like you, we could retire.
I mean, well,
I don't want to retire. I want to keep working on board games.
Hopefully there will be some more people, like-minded people out there. I'm sure there are.
There's some.
Yeah, because I feel like there's definitely people watching this right now, because I'm gonna go to the questions in a second. I bet there's some people out there that are like, hey, I definitely have used this site a bunch. Yeah, I have not. Like I said, when I was working at Snakes, you have no idea how much I used BoardGameGeek on a daily basis to be like, I need to find this thing and I can't remember. And I'd be like, I'm just going to look it up on BoardGameGeek.
It's awesome to hear.
Yeah, so helpful. Speaking of those questions, Desiree, I'm going to send this over to you, our amazing producer, Desiree. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, we do. And actually, since you mentioned, there might be people in chat saying how much they appreciate the website. There have been, so I just wanted to share a few. So someone had said in chat that they like the new front page for BGG. They think that it makes the website more accessible for new users. And then
that was the goal.
Yeah. And then someone on Facebook said, I'm an accountant, so probably goes without saying, I love my spreadsheets. BGG's export feature has changed my life. So they're super excited about it.
So they exported their collection.
Yeah,
you can export your collection into a spreadsheet, and then you can do more stuff with it if you wanted to, like in Excel or whatever. That's another little side feature.
That's so great.
Cool.
I need that, actually.
But for the questions, we have a few. So let's see. And then someone had said the forums/rules was the best innovation for them.
So. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the forums. I love them.
So let's see. What happened? What happened to the? Is it Tigris and Euphrates digital game? Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, Tigris and Euphrates. Yeah. So back in 2000 or 1999, I would say, I played Tigris and Euphrates for the first time, and that was like, it changed my life. Like, I was a settler, I played Settlers, and that was cool. But Tigris and Euphrates was that next level Euro that was like, whoa, this is really cool. So I implemented an online version, and people could play it on BGG, turn-based. So you can do a turn, like asynchronous turns, right? So you would do a turn and wait for the other person to do a turn. Mm-hmm. It just got overwhelming to keep maintaining, and we didn't really have the correct permissions to keep it going. So took it down. There you go. Now, I had asked Reiner back in 2000 if it was okay. I met him at Essen, and he does not remember this. I actually talked to him. Reiner Knizia is the designer of this game.
Yeah.
I said, "Are you cool with me making an online version?" He's like, "Oh yeah." Like, I don't think he understood me.
What you were maybe asking. So maybe he said it was cool, but then he was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?"
What did you say? Yeah. So, and he has no memory of this, and I'm like, okay, well, if you don't have memory of it, let's just take it down and make it.
That's fair.
No, there was no takedown or anything like that. It was just something. It was an old system that we just kind of kept utilizing a lot of resources, and we just wanted to. BoardGameGeek's not about playing the games online; it's more about talking about them.
Yeah, but there are places now that you can be directed to.
Oh, there's tons of places.
Want to go play some stuff?
That must be an old school user who asked that question, because that was a long time.
There you go.
Awesome. So let's see. What has Scott learned from presenting an online convention, and what should hosts do to improve the online con experience?
So I'll just say tabletop events. And this is before I bought the company, or we, I should say. Having the schedule already there. Now, BGG Con itself is not a heavily scheduled convention. We just bring 5,000 games to a room or a hotel with a giant ballroom, and let people just do everything, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't work on virtual. You have to have pre-scheduled stuff, like empower your community or your convention attendees to make events and stick to them, right? Like, if you want to play a game, don't look for it to happen, make it happen, right? Like, you enter in, like, you schedule, and you don't have to use tabletop events for this. You can just do this on your own, but tabletop events makes it easy. So create schedules. If you don't see the game you want to play at an online convention, make it happen. Like, you have to, it's sort of like build your own convention. It doesn't happen automatically. Yeah. That's the big difference. I don't know if that's good advice.
I think that's great advice, personally.
Okay.
Speaking, I think Desiree and I
no one creates a game to play, how do you play, right? How do you
you have to be very active, and you
have
also
to be a little proactive. Step out of your shell a little bit.
And I think the thing you said about schedules is very key, and helping people know where to be and how to be there and what's going on.
Like, where to go, like, we're going to do this on Zoom, Discord, Skype, whatever.
Yeah, how's it happening?
What system are we going to use? Tabletop Simulator.
Yep.
Tons of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it looks like that's all the questions for
Okay.
now.
Those are easy.
All right. Yeah. Those are good questions, too. People always have good questions at the end of these chats, and I'm like, man, you guys send me some of these questions. Hook me up. I want some of these.
It's tough to come up with questions for interviews.
It can be, yeah. Well, I mean, I always think there's so many things. The problem I run into whenever I'm thinking of my questions for when we do the show is actually I run into the problem of, at first I'm like, I don't know what to ask. And then I get started writing, and then I have 20 questions, and I'm like, okay, that's too many. Now I need to get rid of these. But I always try to think as well sometimes of what are some good questions that people that are watching might be more inclined to ask or feel more comfortable asking. And then if I think there's one that might come up, sometimes I'll be like, I'm going to scrap that. I'm going to let someone else have that one. Because it always feels nice when you come up with a good question too. I like coming up with a good question.
Don't take all the audience questions.
No, let them have some fun. Yeah, let them interact. And yeah, thank you all for being here and interacting, by the way, everyone in chat. Thank you for watching. All right. Well, that kind of brings us to the end. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Scott, for coming on and chatting with us.
Well, thank you for pushing me, because I know we had like a little stall at the beginning of our
yeah.
I'm terrible with email, by the way.
Oh, that's
like if you ever send me an email and I don't respond, don't take it personally.
Okay.
Not your fault. It's me, all 100%.
I will not judge you.
Yeah.
I have like 5 or 6 emails, so I feel you. Sometimes I just get overwhelmed with my emails and I'm like, I need to quit email. Yeah. It can be a lot.
We've moved to Slack quite a bit.
Slack is great. Slack is
for company stuff. Yeah. It's way better than email for me. So.
I think the problem too these days is that you have so many chats, you know, too. Like you have, like I have like my Slack, my Discord, my messengers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my WhatsApp.
I've accidentally responded in a Discord to a internal BGG Slack question. I'm like, delete, hurry, delete.
You're like,
nobody saw that. Nobody saw that.
This is the problem.
That's always fun. You have to be really,
careful. Yeah. Careful. That's awesome. Well, no, I hope that you are able to keep your chats organized and don't get too overwhelmed. Yeah, because that is the hard reality right now, where we all are not even able to talk to each other in the same way we used to be.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you so much for joining us. So before you go,
thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Oh, anytime. Remind us of who you are, what you do, and of course, where we can find you and your work online.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm the founder and owner of BoardGameGeek.com. It's a website about board games. We have Twitter, BoardGameGeek. We have Twitch, BoardGameGeek TV. We have YouTube, BoardGameGeek. Instagram, BoardGameGeek. I think that's it. Me personally, I'm Aldi at Twitter, but I don't do Twitter much. It's better to get me on Facebook. Yeah.
Facebook. Yeah. Facebook is the way for anyone looking to get into the gaming. Well, I think a lot of gamers out there, if you guys are looking into the gaming community, Facebook is like, I think, primo.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And before we head out, I just want to remind everyone about some quick little things. So just a reminder, Rise of the Psycho Rangers and Villain Pack #2 Machine Empire are now available at your friendly local game store. And you can also pre-order Duel of Wands, Kids on Brooms card game. And this is a game that is designed by Luke Mensch and Doug Lewandowski. And we've got beautiful art by Heather Vaughn. It is playable with your Kids on Brooms RPG campaign. You can use it to actually resolve conflicts in there. Or you can just play it as a standalone 2-player game if you just want to, duel and have fun with another Magic user. It's a totally magical experience. So you can pre-order that now, either at your friendly local game store or online. And we have our Twitch schedule. So we have More Phenomenal Mondays at 3 p.m. PST and Vampire Wednesdays at 5 p.m. PST. And then we always have the Renegade Society radio show with me every Friday, so you can come and say hello over here. And before we go, we do have that Warp's Edge giveaway. So one more time, the code word is geek, and Desiree will have that link for you in chat where you can go to plug that word in. And that is all I have to say for now. So thank you again, Scott. And
thanks for having me, and nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. And we'll have to, next time we are at a convention together,
we'll play a game.
Yeah,
we'll chat.
That's good times.
Yeah. And thank you for Desiree as well for producing. And thank you to all you Renegades for joining us. Thank you for joining us this Friday evening and many Friday evenings. And hopefully I'll see you next Friday. And don't forget to play your game.